Tide Underfoot by J. Thomas Allison and Anne Austin Eberly. This is Chapter 1, Smoke and Smokestacks. "Smoke and smokestacks!" was all J.J. had time to holler when he saw the wall of ice come crashing down Roundout Creek, headed for his father's side-wheel steamboat. Tree trunks, branches, rocks, and parts of a couple of Mr. Cornell's favorite docks stuck out of the busted ice jam. The whole mess sounded like rolling thunder. In seconds, it hit Austin, snapping the boat from its mooring lines and throwing him in a heap on the deck. He could hardly hear his collie, Tuck's frantic barking from shore faded as the big boat sent him on what felt like the wildest toboggan ride he could ever imagine. Lurching this way and that, he couldn't get on his feet. And the din. Other boats moored for the winter now roared along, bumping into each other in slow motion, pushing one another toward and then onto the still frozen Hudson River. They covered the half-mile from Cornell docks in short order. The first boats, including Austin, ground noisily to a halt, shuddering the concussion from others behind. As suddenly as it began, it abruptly stopped. The silence covered him like a thick blanket. And then it erupted into echoes of the catastrophe resounding from the Catskill Mountains on the western shore. The whole disaster was replayed in his ears. When silence returned, J.J. could hear Tucker still barking anxiously, but now much farther away. His nose stung with a fishy stench of burning whale oil. "Fire!" he yelled. The only one who would hear was Granddad, who had gone below to start his annual inspection before towing season began. "Granddad!" He flung himself down the ladder to the lower deck and headed for the boiler room, where he saw a smoky yellow light. Moments before, he'd been dreamily knocking away a dozen layers of damaged paint, worked with an old wood chisel and thinking, "Why does Granddad want me to do this? It's only going to chip off again in 1856. He found Captain Jeremiah Austin Sr. lying on the floor, shovels and coal soon destined for a fiery fate around him. He appeared unconscious. A broken lantern leaked its contents in a widening pool, now afire. Stamping out the flames left them in a stinky gloom broken by the intrusion of a cloudless March day. It peeked around the deadlight propped open over a porthole. Granddad attempted to sit up, and with the young man's help, and leaned against the cold iron firebox. Holding the side of his head, he reconstructed the events of the last 15 minutes. "I think I'm all right, son. It was like a terrible dream, and I fell out of bed. The ice jam broke and pushed us onto the river. I need to stand up. That firebox door doesn't make a good pillow, son. Help me to the porthole." Painfully reaching it, he pushed up the deadlight and secured it. He let out the longest whistle J.J. had ever heard him utter, and he'd made plenty of them. "We need to get up on deck and assess the damage." "Right out on the ice, you say?" It took holding on to one another to work themselves toward the ladder as the hull listed sharply to port. Climbing it was another adventure. J.J. wasn't any more successful than Granddad getting a foothold. My land. This sure is something to tell your grandchildren, boy. "How in thunder are we going to get this old boat where she belongs?" "I've been on 'em since I was 12. That was 60 years back. And this is a first for me. In the old days when the ice broke, the sloops would just bob about like big corks and end up miles downriver. I think we sailed out with the tide underfoot." "That's right, J.J. Tide underfoot. That's when we run with the tide and it helps us along. We don't need to run the engine so hard." "Yes, sir," with a long, slow pause between each word. "Tide underfoot. Tide underfoot. I'll go and get help, Granddad. Tell me what to do. Let's both look at this together. I don't know what kind of help you can find. Like I said, I've never done this before. He gingerly shuffled to the rail, his bare hands clutching the side of a cat hole for balance. We're not in the water. We're on it. Look, the ladder we brought down from Albany where we were painting here 2 years ago. His grandson waved his hand toward the bow. Always meant to return it to your father, J.J. Maybe that's a sign. What do you propose to do? I could lower it over the side. Are you strong enough to climb down? On the ice or in the boatyard, it's still solid footing. I think I'm too bunged up to walk very far. That's no problem. I could pull you along in the yawl like an Eskimo sled dog. How are you going to get the yawl onto the ice all by yourself? The boy disappeared, and Granddad could hear his smoke and smokestacks over and over again, getting farther and farther away. Finally, he returned, walking more naturally, arms full of blankets. See what I found in the crew quarters. What's that shiny thing hanging from your thumb? Blankets to keep you warm and Matt's crampons for me. They hang on a nail over his bunk. He bought them when he worked through the winter cutting ice at Mr. Stott's ice house. They turn his feet into claws, and he stamps across the ice and never slips. I can't help you with the yawl. Next thing Granddad heard was the scraping of wood on wood. The yawl, taken from its davits and overturned on the deck for the winter, appeared, pushed by a rather slight boy. Without a word, he wrestled a long, heavy ladder over the side, and they both could hear ka-chunk as it dug into the ice. The blankets were the next to go. Granddad could see the sloop stand on end with J.J. underneath, and he swayed like a drunken sailor. Balancing it with his shoulders, he resembled an intoxicated tortoise. Up and over, it slid noisily down, dexterously managed by that most enthusiastic of deckhands. With the panache of a waiter directing a favored customer to his table, the old man was escorted to the ladder, helped onto a blacking box to step over the side. Climbing around the old man like a monkey, J.J. guided his heavy boots finally onto each rung as they descended. Making the old captain comfortably cocooned, he scrambled up the ladder like a sailor on a rat line and disappeared again. Several minutes lapsed, then on deck could be seen a yellow glow as J.J. appeared, carrying 4 whale oil lanterns ablaze. How did you do that, son? Well, you hung one lantern on a nail, and it swung free and stayed lit. So I emptied others to fill these. You can use one to warm your hands, and people can see us. You are remarkable. A 12-year-old Jeremiah, son of Benjamin, Revolutionary War veteran and hero. That's me, boy. Would never have thought of this. I got one question to ask. When the ice breaks and the Austin is in the water, is my ladder going to be with the fishes? Oh, no. No, sir. I tied it with a piece of rope through one of the cat holes. It'll just hang there waving until I return. Preparing to depart, Granddad whistled again. One thing I know, when Austin is in dry dock for repairs or caulking, she isn't afloat. She's sitting on hard timber. I think the old girl is stronger than we give her credit. Until we know differently, let's assume everything is good. The intrepid duo crossed the ice, a companionable silence between them. The groan and scrape of wood on frozen water was deafening. J.J. stopped occasionally to adjust the painter around his middle and could hear Tuck's continuous ahoy, ahoy, ahoy from shore. In the last of the afternoon light, it looked as if a child had turned his play chest over on the floor, and wooden blocks, pickup sticks, and maritime toys tumbled about. At one of the painter readjustments, Granddad called out, "From where I sit, son, it looks like our only damage is a tipped stack. Why, an hour with a gantry will set it aright. I think we went out balanced on the keel and tipped over when we stopped. That list port gave me my headache, I think." Suddenly came a screaming toot, 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 again and again. JJ let out a big wahoo! Granddad, that's the train. They seen the pileup. Listen, 3 toots close together, followed by 3 toots spaced out. Another 3 toots close together. Granddad, Morse code, SOS. They've seen us! When they get to Rensselaer Station, someone will run across the ice and all of Albany will know. Who'd ever think I'd have a good thing to say about the railroad?